let's start here just with the timing and how long all of this took, right? Because so many people were scratching their heads saying, what's going on here? Like, her body's literally found dismembered in the trunk of his car. Why would it take so long to get to the point now where finally there are charges against him? Finally, he's in custody, and finally the case seems to be going forward.
I don't know. Something is off with this case to me. Firstly, I've literally handled 2 cases with bodies in the trunk of a car and somebody driving it, and they weren't the person who committed the murder. So as a prosecutor, I not only have to find the body, I have to find the cause and manner of death. I have to make sure I connect this individual to the actual causing of the death of a person. There have been instances in which there's been accidents or a drug overdose and somebody dies in a nefarious way, or maybe she's underage and she, is taking some medication. I'm not trying to blame the victim here. Just don't get me wrong. I'm talking about other cases I've handled. So why is it in front of the grand jury for all this time? Vinnie, me and you both know that you can go into a grand jury in 15 minutes pretty much and secure an indictment. Now, if they're using their investigation power, their subpoena power and all that, that's great. They took their time. They went slow and methodically. And that's what I thought they did. But then I started reading reports that there's trouble in paradise between prosecutors and police and the medical examiner about whether he did it and what the actual cause and manner of death was. And that's actually what precipitated this arrest outside the context of the grand jury. The grand jury did not indict here unless I'm getting something wrong. It was the police that made the arrest here. This is very, very unusual territory. We'll have to wait to see how this figures out. I will say, last point, the pornography charge from the criminal defense lawyer, now I'm freaking out. I don't want to fight that war because that is like a definite state prison sentence, and that's not difficult to piece together. So the prosecutor's got a huge playing card in the plea bargaining process because of that piece.
Yeah, there's almost no way around it. We were dealing with Stephen Stearns last year, right? And this is a guy who was accused in the murder of his girlfriend, sort of girlfriend's daughter, Madeline Soto. And there was all this pornography, but it was actually the victim that was on his phone, and there was like no way to explain it. Is there any sort of viable defense if it's your phone and all these images exist on your actual device that you have control over?
Extremely difficult unless you're going to try to make some sort of credible argument that somebody else had access to your phone. They're talking about thousands and thousands, and usually these things are on file sharing platforms, so your audience understands there are places where these things reside, and that you have to literally, with your IP address, with your phone, you have to literally go into these file sharing programs and download this stuff, unless he's producing it himself, which is even worse. So child pornography cases tend to be very linear. If the constitutional aspects of the case were done correctly, the warrants were done correctly, it's very difficult for the owner of a device, especially a phone, to make an argument that it wasn't them. So this is what I'm saying. Prosecution starts with a leg up there. But, of course, prosecutors want to get the conviction for the murder if they have that evidence. And I don't know. There's just something funny about what's going on here. I think there's a lot that we are not seeing where there's some frenetically bad energy in the prosecution's case. Yeah,
and it's also a strange, I think, scenario of what was going on inside of that house and who was in and who was out. David himself is sort of he's an artistic guy, a little bit strange, right? And I think that's playing into all this. Now, the other part that a lot of people have been talking about, obviously, is Celeste Rivas is the victim. She was a young teenager. He's an adult, and the nature of that relationship, I think, is a big part of what this case ultimately will be about. And I'm wondering if she's underage, he's an adult, he has child pornography allegedly on his phone. Is all that separated ultimately in any case against him for the relationship and murder of Celeste Rivas, or do you think that there's a way prosecutors can get all that evidence in front of the jury to paint a more complete picture of who he is and why he may be involved with such a young girl?
But that's a great question and an extremely nuanced evidential question about whether or not the admissibility of the child pornography. By the way, keep in mind, child pornography is anything under the age of 18 years old, and the possibility of sexual assault. If it doesn't involve her directly, this is what we call 404 evidence, Vinnie. There are certain ways that you can get it in if it goes to motive, intent, opportunity, absence of mistake, or a defense. I know I'm giving you like a lot of nuance and weedy stuff. Typically, the rules are that they don't allow outside extraneous evidence. That's character assassination, if you will, even though it may be truthful. They usually separate that into a separate trial unless you can make it relevant based on those things I've just indicated.
Now, there are other people involved. Other people were living in the house, sort of an entourage situation, right? He's a young guy. He's an artist. He's making money. You know, and you have people around you, and some of those people may very well have been in the house. How important will what happens with these other people be for David's case? Because it seems like he's got some sort of an inner circle. What will it take to get that inside information that maybe prosecutors need to truly understand what happened here or what may have happened?
Yeah, I would, first of all, you have to wonder whether or not somebody else, again, as a prosecutor, I'm eliminating other people. That's key in this case if they're doing this the right way. Dotting I's and crossing T's. So I'm using geospatial mapping of cell phone towers, finding out who this entourage is, doing witnesses, using grand jury subpoenas to bring them in to get their records so I can start trying to eliminate them. I believe that a lot of what the motive may be here is going to be on somebody's device. Text messages, DMs, things of that nature, electronic data, electronic information that we're not privy to right now. But prosecutors and police want to get all of that. And what I would be doing when I was on these scenes would say, okay, we get it. David is the guy that we believe did it. We're pretty confident of that. Now, I would take a separate team. I used to just do this just to make sure that I was covered at trial. And I say, I want you to prove to me David didn't do it. Prove to me it was somebody else in the house. Prove it to me it was somebody else that was an associate. This way, at the end of the day, if they couldn't come up with anything at the trial, when the defense wanted to say, oh, you just jumped to a conclusion it was David because that's the guy you want, you could say, no, let's show you all the other things we did to eliminate the potential friends and nefarious people that were around him. Because I know as a prosecutor, that's going to be the defense. It wasn't me, it was someone else.
Absolutely. All right, Bob Bianchi's going to stick around.